always forget one little thing when I'm doing this, and it
Right.
almost always comes back to bite me. Here we go. All right. Hello, and welcome to the Shifting Lanes Garage Podcast. My name is Chad, and with us today, we have returning guest Keith from Wheelz Whiskey. Buddy, how you doing today?
What's up, brother? How you doing, man? I'm doing good, Chad. Appreciate you for inviting me on, man.
And as it turns out, it's serendipitous because Greg has tech issues, and if you're a long viewer or listener to the show, you'll know that Greg and Tech mix about as well as me trying to say that sentence. But we are here, we are live, and we have some things to.
Let's do this.
Yeah, the show the show will go on, and
Hopefully, Greg will tune in, but I hate that he's having technical issues, but at the same time, I was having technical issues. I don't have my normal equipment, so I'm like, oh my gosh, I had to jimmy rig this just to make it work.
nah, it's all good. I mean, well, between me and Greg, my setup is far more not far more, is permanent, where his is more on the mobile side of things.
Yeah.
Uh, but it is what it is. We're here. We're live. We're gonna have some. We're gonna enjoy ourselves, and hopefully the Gregson will join when he is able. Uh,
I'm sure he'll get in here. Chad, what are we talking about today, brother?
what are we talking about today? Well, number one, you have a new video up, which kind of sparked a few things conversationally in my brain, if that makes any sense whatsoever. About
Right.
the, I think you did a video. What was it? Inexpensive supercars. I think it was the
Yeah,
general
we did
premise.
35. I think 5 supercars under $35,000. So, in today's market, that is. So, and that was hard to do, but it goes back to, and you had this question from me earlier, like what, I may disagree, but what is your definition of a supercar?
See that, and that was what was bouncing around in my head because if you can, just in no particular order, what was the list?
What was the list? So I had five in mind, and now, mind you, my definition of what I saw of what a supercar was something that was exotic looking, that was fast, and not something that is your average, sports car that you could just get, and it had that like wow factor. It's one of those cars where you look at it and you're like, whoa, you know, because you can do that with a lot of cars, but I feel like a supercar stands out. So the first one that I had was a Lotus Elise. Second one was a Bentley Continental GT. What was my third one? Oh my gosh. Jaguar F-Type, Maserati Turismo, and then C7 Corvette. Because I had to throw American Muscle in there. And like I said, for me, because supercar can be very vague. There's a lot of things that could be a supercar. Like I could make a Toyota Prius a supercar. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, you could try.
You could try. You would fail miserably, I think. So, but that was the five breakdown that I had. And mind you, these were ones that were under $35,000. So we had like a budget that we were trying to stay under because, I mean, who at what average Joe doesn't want like something exotic or something cool, something that's of that status. You know what I mean?
No, I mean 100%. I think the biggest thing when we had ours, or Greg had his, I should say,
Yeah,
Aston Martin V8 Vantage was, you could get a hand built, whether it's good or bad, British mostly, exotic for the price of a Camry.
exactly.
Or I
Exactly.
guess in today's nomenclature, for the price of a CRV, since everybody wants crossovers because humanity sucks.
Yeah, that's a new thing. But you're absolutely right. Like, and I think the out of that list that I gave, the one that I would probably want the most would probably be the Bentley Continental GT. I absolutely love that car, dude. It's big, it's sleek, it demands of just a luxurious presence. It makes over 500 horsepower. It sounds absolutely just nasty. And when you see one pull up, you're like, whoa. because I'd put air ride on that. I'd bag that thing to the ground. It would be more of a street show car than anything for me. But it's one of those where when you pull up, people are going to break necks looking at me like, dang, son. I'm like, yeah, it's a bit, boy. Paid about 280 for it. Realistically, I paid 22.
Yeah, it's just a rebodied Volkswagen Phaeton, which is I'm pretty sure why you like it. But
That's it. It's a good point. Two WR6s slapped together.
yeah, but that was the one I took the most exception to, if I'm being honest. And guys,
there he is.
And guys, I just want to make it abundantly clear. Hold on. Do we have a Gregson?
I see you, Gregson.
Yeah, I'm here. I just was being silent, just in case.
You look great.
Hold on.
What's up? What's up? How's it going, Keith? Good to see you, my brother.
There we are.
Good,
we officially have a trio. So, Greg, you were listening in. Supercar Bentley Continental GT is where, and again, as I was going to say, if you guys haven't checked out Keith's video, definitely go out and check it. Because like we said the last time he was here, for someone who's just starting in this YouTube game or content creation game in general,
it's good.
It's better than good.
Thank you.
It, like, from a quality standpoint, from a writing standpoint, from a flow standpoint and stuff, it's leaps and bounds better than where we started. Where
Thank you. That means a lot.
It's above average. Let's not give him too much of an ego. Come on.
No, this game is all about ego. This game is all about ego.
It depends on how much we drink while we're recording, because the quality can get bad. No.
So
yeah, but thank y'all so much. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
It's honestly, shout out to my editor. Trevor is incredible. He makes it just look so darn smooth and so good. So I gotta give him a huge shout out.
Yeah. I mean, having that person
great.
with the know-how to where you can film, but he knows what you need to film, that'll make the editing easier or what have you, is such a step most people don't even realize.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you can go out and film and just be lost in the sauce with like a ton of footage, a ton of this, a ton of that.
Script is everything. It really is. We learned that early on when we started our first 3 YouTube videos. They were good. And then he's like, you know what? All these other YouTube channels have a script, because we need to do a script. We need to do this and this and this and this. And I said, all right, cool. And so I listened to him. We did that. And our bike video shot up. We're up to that 5,000 views like that. And then our supercar video, we're trending around 1,200 right now. And it's been like 3 days. So it climbs pretty quick. And it's just because we've been trying to focus on, paying attention to what other people do and how they do it. And honestly, when it's scripted out,
yeah, dude,
it can be good quality.
Yeah,
it goes a long way.
Because then you get your talking points down, and then you're just like, oh, okay, this is how it flows. So like, to me, a lot of like those kinds of videos, and this is sort of like what I think Chad and I are going to be getting into for our sort of long form relaunch eventually, is, you do script it out and you do have talking points, and then you can edit around those talking points. Like, you can say a really nice sentence or two, and then cool, break, then get back. You don't have to have this like long stream of consciousness going constantly, because then it gets frustrating to edit. For one, it also gets frustrating because like you go in like into like tangents and stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's what the stream is for. Let's leave the tangents for stream. And then so like,
yes.
But like long form should be like very like staccato editing. Like here's your point, here's your B-roll, here's your point, here's your B-roll and point. Like it's well done for on your side for sure, but like it's I think you're getting into that flow of like, oh, okay, I see like what the deal is now.
Yeah. Well, also Trevor's like, because before I would do, like you said, I would just go off my brain, off the dome, and just stop. And I didn't realize how many ums, I's, and like, and he's like, bro, this is a editor's nightmare.
Right. And like, you don't realize.
Goes, scripted out. So the first one we did scripted, he goes, gold. I'll have this done in 30 minutes.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, cool.
It makes it easier, but it
makes a difference.
It also makes it easier to talk to, because then you have like what you want to say already written down, and you just say it, and then it's
you
just
throw
done.
your personality on it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, well done, and
That's
glad
it.
to have you on stream again. So, and glad to finally
Yeah,
talk
it
to
was
you
awesome.
since
It's
it's
fun.
been mostly you and
I
Chad.
know, right? Yeah, this is our first time, so it's exciting.
Yeah, I mean,
Very cool.
So,
I mean, you were conveniently absent last time. I mean, what the heck is going on?
I just secretly hate Keith.
Whoa, whoa,
Oh
whoa.
shit! Whoops, he's right here. Shh, don't tell him.
you need a drink, my friend.
I can't look. Like I can never hate someone drinking from a horn. That's just fact of life.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
That's pretty awesome. I mean, I got a Polestar Blue Solo cup. It's not a horn.
Moo.
I believe they call it Swedish Racing
Emu.
Green, Greg. Get with it. Come on.
I know.
Yeah.
So I didn't mean to interrupt. We were talking supercars. So Bentley Continental GT. What about it?
Not a supercar.
100% not a supercar.
I was like, Greg's gonna. I knew Chad's just gonna roast me this video.
It's not.
So
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's
I was
kind of.
like, I
I guess
gotta
that's
be
kind of
prepared.
become my personality on the internet. Kind of the ball
let
buster.
me bust out the heavy stuff. Hold on.
Look, Bentley Continental GT is not a supercar. It is a very fast, luxurious Grand Tour. The end. It is not a
Yeah.
supercar.
I mean, if you cut it in half, you'd have the weight of two supercars.
Yeah.
You know,
There
And I think
so
there's
there-
an important distinction that I think Greg and you and I have talked about. And again, look, I'm looking at it right now. That's your second best video that you've done by a massive margin. 2,000 views.
Right.
Which doesn't sound like a ton to the casual, but that's 10x your sub base. So that's
Right.
That's
Right.
That's
correct.
great.
When we look at our algorithm, it's really good.
you know, so it's
and the analytics
obviously
of it.
doing really, really well. And not for nothing, not to get too down the content rabbit hole, kind of having that, you choosing nomenclature that people will disagree with
Right.
is if done correctly and
You're gonna
treading that
love my
fine
next
line,
video.
it's great because you're gonna have someone sitting here and comment, well, like me, well, technically that's not a supercar.
Hold up. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, but here's the thing. A negative comment is still a comment. It's engagement, and it's one of
Yeah.
those things where we do. It's like a lot of times, and Greg will do this with some people who negatively comment with some of our stuff, and that is, he'll be like, "Cool, thanks for the algo bump." You know,
Yeah.
like,
Yep.
Oh, that's smart. That's clever.
you know,
Yep.
and then,
Our next
and
video is
then,
gonna be
like
fantastic,
you're not being easily riled up, even though like in a sense
Right.
I know a bunch of channels who have people would comment just to get the person to rile up, but guess what, if you have a conversation in the comments, that's a great thing. But
That's a great thing.
this all kind of circles back to like what you, and to each person it's different, but I would classify.
So, what is your definition of a supercar, though? Because even we looked it up. I was like, we looked up multiple definitions, and I'd love to hear y'all's versions on it.
So my definition is simple and horribly complicated at the same time.
Of course.
Much like Chad
That's
as a
every
human.
conversation y'all.
So when I look at a super car, my first thought is that vehicle has to be built with with speed, whether straight line speed, acceleration, handling, all of that stuff from the word go.
Right.
And you have a lot of cars that, let's just say hypothetically speaking, right? You have a supercar is almost like a no compromises type of car, right? Like let's take the Jaguar, for example. Okay, they set out to build a fast car, but it's a Grand Tour, so we're going to make it a little bit more comfortable. Oh, we're going to have space in the trunk so we can fit luggage, golf clubs, enough of that sort of stuff. And it starts to deviate from that. Speed is the primary goal. The Continental GT again is fast luxury, right?
Yeah, it's a luxury, like he's a Grand Tour.
Yep.
Yep.
And then you have
Big boat.
and then because a lot of these are like the Gran Turismo, the Corvette, and stuff. In my mind, those are very good sports cars, right?
Right,
They're very
yeah.
fun. They are speed focused, and what have you. And then it's what they said in chat is there's also an aesthetic to it, you know. But
Right.
that aesthetic is a lot of it is figuring out a way to blend beauty with form, right? Ferrari is a perfect example of this. Their cars used to look gorgeous, but the body lines served a purpose, you know, whether it be aerodynamics, well, all of it being basically aerodynamics, but they managed to blend that. And as modern Ferraris came along, they lost that aesthetic. Now they still are supercars, but they're 100% form first. And I think the brand as a whole suffers for it. You know, I think a lot of times, I don't think they exclusively have to be, but I also think supercars have a non-traditional engine layout, whether it be the engines in between the axles, like whether it be a front mid, like some of the Corvettes, or your traditional mid-engine layout and what have you. I think I will hand it over to Greg after this. I think a lot of these fall more in the exotic realm, like that feeling you were saying about I'm driving around, and like that feeling of whether it be opulence or that special feeling or what have you, that only exotics can. And again, I'm not trying to dump all over it. This is why we have conversations. We talk about it. We may not disagree. We'll shake hands. We'll remain friends, and everything will be great. Just ask Greg how this has worked for 20 some odd years. But
I'll say it sounds like he's saying the Mustang's a supercar. If you really think about it.
The Mustang, I will sit here and say that the new modern Mustang has a lot of sports car characteristics, but it's a little on the heavier side because it has, you know, seating for 4, right? Like a lot of these things, to where it's not a purebred, you know, built for a purpose. And it's a little on the heavier side when you compare it to some other quote unquote sports cars. Which is why I think it's redefining pony car, right? Pony car was that car that was supposed to be an affordable sports car, but also fulfill a lot of the daily driver roles. But Greg,
I messed up, Greg. I mentioned Mustang.
Oh yeah, I mean that's on you, buddy. I'm actually writing down so I have 4 criteria for this, but let me finish writing these down because I want to make sure that I actually get
while
them
you do that
correct.
While you do that, Sean, Anthony, Volvo Hala, Doug, Steve, thank you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Welcome. Hope you guys are enjoying yourselves. Steve, hi to your wife as well. Hope you guys are having a good one. As well.
Mrs. Steve. She's called Mrs. Steve.
Mrs. Steve.
The curator of the key from now on, since Steve cannot be trusted.
That's right. And Valhalla is our buddy Aaron Whitesell. So, hey, Aaron, what's going on, man?
Finish Greg's car.
Right, so,
no, I'm kidding.
So here's my definition of a supercar. And I sort of aligns to a lot of what Ed Bolian says. He and I sort of agree on like what a supercar would be. First criteria is it has to be fast. I don't think that there has been a supercar ever made within its time period that was not fast. If there is one, please name one because you're wrong.
Right.
2, just 1A of this is supercars can be within their own time period. I think the original supercar, which most people sort of denote as the original supercar, is a Lamborghini Miura. That is still a supercar in my mind by modern standards.
Right. Yes.
It is not.
It's not.
It's fast. Right. Like you can get a Miura up there into many of miles per hour, but it is not quick. It is not. It will not hang with modern cars. But for its era, it is a supercar, and by that definition, it stays a supercar.
It's still a supercar. I agree.
Correct.
100%.
So
100%.
Yeah. So the second criteria, then, I think it has to be exotic. You can't have a commonplace car being a supercar in that sense. There can be exceptions to that, and I think a good example of that is a modern car, the Mustang GTD. It is a hyper crazy example of an ordinary car. The Mustang GTD is a supercar.
Mm-hmm.
The next part about that is it has to be rare. And it doesn't have to be rare in the sense that like 1 of 10. To me, you know, a lot of people say like some Aston Martins are supercars. Bentley Continental GT. It fits fast and it fits exotic, but those are not rare cars.
Right.
They
Yeah.
are they are
Because you can
not.
find them.
No,
Yeah.
you can find them everywhere. They make
All day.
they make maybe not tens, but they make thousands of them every year.
Right.
Counterpoint to that is they make thousands of Lamborghini Huracans too. However,
Both cars saved their
next
respective brands, by the way.
oh, very true, very true. The last
Mm.
point brings all of this sort of together where it has to be somewhat unattainable too. So I'd say it
Mm.
doesn't have to hit every one of these points, but it has to be within the realm of these 4 points. I
Right. I
mean,
see what you're saying.
You just
to me,
described your. You just actually just described the Volvo sitting behind you.
I mean, it's not exotic.
Wagons. Hold on. Wagons in today's world are they're on the endangered species list, which argument could be made makes it exotic. I don't think it is, but I'm just saying. Like, well, not for nothing. You just said also that it doesn't have to hit all four, so it's rare. It's
technically you are correct. The best kind of correct. No, but like to me, like, but there has to be something to it. You know, like this is a wonderful car. I love this car. But it's not a supercar.
no,
It's not.
It
You're
isn't.
gonna look
And
at it and
quite frankly, it's not all that fast. It's quick. It will get to an electronically limited 155 eventually. But if you put it up against a modern sports car, it's going to get its lunch taken from it every single time.
Yeah.
Now,
It is
I think
within
there are
shouting
exceptions
distance
here.
of in the quarter because it's not slow.
It is. It is. No, it's not slow, but it's not a supercar. I'd say this is comparable to a sports car. Yes. You could argue that this is a sports car. And I think that you could win that argument. But it's definitely not a supercar. I think there are also exceptions like the GTD to the regular Mustang.
Right.
You know, a great
that's a big
argument.
The
exception.
GTD is so much not
It's
Mustang.
absolutely nasty.
It has so much that
Right.
isn't
That-
a regular
Right.
it
Mustang.
doesn't even look like
But-
a Mustang. It's so nasty almost.
But here's the other thing, like there are other examples of this that would be a little bit more argumentative is the C8 Corvette. I would say that the base C8 Corvette is not a supercar.
Right.
Anything from the Z06 and up is because they are rarer. They are definitely more exotic looking than older ones. They are slightly unobtainable because of one, price, and two, they don't make a ton of them. They are insanely fast. And I would argue that they're borderline supercar, and the ZR1 for sure is a supercar.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree with that.
I think that there's stuff. Yeah, there's stuff to argue there.
I'm ripping that video down.
No, here's the thing. The reason we are
He
discussing,
just leaves.
like I said at the top of this, we are discussing it, which makes it a perfect video. It creates discussion. Because somewhere someone's going to sit here and go, you know, they're going to watch your video and they're going to sit here and go share it to their friend and be like, see, Timmy, I told you the Jaguar was a supercar.
I have a better question. Can you make a car a supercar?
Are you talking from the garage standpoint? Like, let's just say hypothetically speaking, right? If my Mustang were to say have 1,000 horsepower and stuff like that, like, right? Or are we talking like the Carroll Shelbys of the world, or like?
I think the answer to that is yes, because if we're talking about transforming, that's not just including the mechanics, but also the body, making it extremely one of a kind, and could possibly be, you know, that's one of a kind, almost, you know, where you can't put a price on it.
That's true. So take this. Take the V60 Polestar. It's already rare. You can make it faster. Sure, you can make it exotic because it's a wagon. At the end of the day, look, I love wagons, and I will hopefully always own a wagon some type. But I don't think it's exotic, and I don't think it will ever be exotic. But you could put it into an unattainable realm too, because you know you've dumped many thousands of dollars into it to make it go 200 miles an hour.
Bigger
I would
turbo.
argue it is possible. Shut up, Chad.
Hey, take a picture of your car and then put it in one of those AI generators and say, make my car into a supercar and see what it looks like.
That's
I'm
true.
just curious.
That's true. You could do that.
Boom.
Yeah.
Puts a big fat spoiler and that's it on it.
Box fender the world.
I mean,
So yeah, I think you could turn a car into a
point.
supercar in some senses, but I think there are generally cars out there that are sort of the quintessential supercars, like your Lamborghini Miuras, most modern Lamborghinis, including the Storada, the off-road one.
well, here's a question then.
I don't think it could be any car though.
Not any car, no.
Or are the Raptor R and TRX supercars?
No, I think that they are separate.
They're too common. I see them everywhere around
right,
here.
But if we're looking at exterior performance, it's not on pavement performance, but they are the best performance vehicles in their segment. You know, where like if you sat here and looked at, like, you know, if you're the benchmark of a sports car is like, say, a Porsche 911, right? When there's no pavement, there's nothing from an OEM that can touch these things.
Right.
I would say that they need their own category, because I understand that trucks are cars by definition, literally. But I think super truck is its own category, because there is a category of super trucks, and those are the two quintessential versions of that. I think you can also put lowered F-150s with supercharged Coyote engines also in that discussion. But again, that's sort of on the same path as creating a super truck.
Right.
But I do think that they are super in the sense that they're not necessarily rare, but they are rare for trucks, considering how many trucks are sold in the U.S.
Right.
They are unattainable in a way, because most people
They're
won't
six
be able to
figures.
afford them. Right.
Yeah, they are six figures,
Right.
but
they're fast.
Around here, I see you can see a T-Rex at least once a week, easy. I mean, you see them on the road around here. I mean, they're.
I mean, you do live in the
I just
pickup
see
truck
them.
capital of the world, though.
Correct. Yeah, we're in the South, so
You sure do.
there are a lot of them.
Yeah.
It's an interesting conversation, because to circle back to your question, can you make a car a supercar? I would say you can make a car a supercar slayer. You know, I could make, you know, my silver Mustang had the power to, and we could have, you know, if we started running more exotic fuels and stuff, strip it out and stuff, start, you know, taking down Lambos and stuff at the strip and everything like that. But I don't think I think you can give it all of the performance, but what makes a supercar is that it was, again, it goes back to the original focus of focus of what the car was supposed to be, right? Like you know, I think, and I'm not saying that as a negative, because I think our channel was founded on the idea of a car punching above its weight. You know, an M3 slaying V70R, right? An E46 M3 slaying, is just to be specific. But I love that idea. I actually would prefer to have a built car that I sort of picked and choose the performance spec, that I had, quote unquote, a hand in the design, so to speak. Then I'll give you I would rather spend $100,000 on my car, on my Mustang, than go out and buy like $100,000 Porsche or Lambo or whatever. You know, just for me personally.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what about? I want to bring up this other car that I mentioned, the Lotus Elise.
That's a tricky one, because
What are your thoughts?
That's a sports car. It's not a supercar.
I agree with Greg, and here's why. Number one, remind me again what the engine is it?
It's a 4-cylinder Toyota motor. It's a 2.4, I believe, or
Yeah, it's a
But
Toyota four banger.
its weight though is practically nothing. It'll do 0 to 60 in 4 seconds.
Again,
True.
the performance criteria is there. It looks like nothing else on the road, right? Um,
But you
Right?
can buy them.
but
You can get them for
their
like 40
whole
grand.
their whole
See, that's the part where I feel like I can disagree with that because I understand it not being to be able to like unattainable, but at the same time, depreciation is a thing. I mean, at the time when it first came out, it was not. You were not able to afford to get one of those right off the showroom floor.
Which one is a supercar to you? A Lotus Elise or a Ferrari 360 Modena?
A Ferrari, yeah,
Right. You can get a Ferrari 360
right,
Modena for 58 grand now.
right,
Lotus Elise you can still get for 40K. But the thing is, the Ferrari is a supercar, in my opinion, because of that era. That was a supercar.
right,
Like it's
right.
it's the first modern reliable Ferrari that people could buy and just beat the shit out of, and you would have a great time with it. And it was unattainable at the time. You can get them now, but to me that's a supercar because it has a lot of the supercar
Yeah,
characteristics. Lotus Elise is a sports car. That is not a common car. It
yeah,
is more of a sports car because like again, it's like the same thing. I used to own a Aston Martin V8 Vantage. A lot of people say that's a supercar. It's not a supercar. You can get them for $35,000-$40,000 now. They were
right.
100K originally, but they've never been a supercar. They were aimed
A
squarely at the
luxurious,
911 as a
yeah,
911 fighter. They're yeah, right, luxurious sports car.
yeah.
That's it.
Hmm.
I would say the same thing for the Elise, but without the luxury because it's not really
I
a
guess,
luxury
I
car.
never really thought of it like this because, here in America, when we hear, anything that's not American, that's whether it's British or, European, because we don't see so many of them. Like, I guess from my point of view, it classified in that bracket because I didn't see a lot of them,
Right.
to where if you go somewhere where they're manufactured all the time, I'm sure they're all over the road.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I look at it.
Aaron,
I look at it from this standpoint. Um, Obviously, it's slightly. Now, here's the thing: the Elise and later the Exiges and all this other sort of stuff has going it that makes it a little more on the exotic side, a little more on the supercar engineering side, is panel bonding versus welding. Right, the actual manufacturing of the vehicle was nobody did that. I think at the time it was
Yeah.
Lotus and Gordon Murray with the car with the F1 and McLaren and everything, but nobody else was doing. They pioneered an engineering technique with that car. But I look at the Elise and the Exige and a lot of those Lotuses in the same vein that I look at, say, are you going to look at an Ariel Atom and say that that's a supercar? It's a track toy, right?
Yeah.
no, it's not exotic. It's not an exotic car.
Right, but my point is that it's like I feel, and actually have to use the restroom. So before I do that, I'll leave it kind of with this. It's like a lot of things. With a supercar, the more you have to explain why it is, the less it actually is.
Yeah,
If
I
that
think
makes any sense.
that's a really good
Yeah.
point.
That's a really good point.
If when you roll up
That's
in a
smart.
Lambo, people make that immediate distinction, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
It's
a
a
supercar.
no-brainer.
You know,
Yeah.
but a
Yeah.
lot of people still don't know the Lotus name, which is insane to me because it's been around for decades.
Ever.
Forever. Yeah,
Over
a
70
long
years, I
ass
think,
time.
or something to that effect.
Yeah.
It's been around forever. But like, if you have to explain what a Lotus is, if you have to explain what it is,
Yeah.
it
That's
loses
a
the
really
panache.
good point. Damn
Yeah.
it.
So
All right, Chad, you go. We're going to continue the conversation because Aaron made a good point from Valhalla. He said, I want to bring up the YouTube video of the Volkswagen tailgating the Lambo, and a couple of people made other points. What was who said it? Sean? Oh yeah, no, Anthony. MF or Jones on the Turbo LS Volvo 240 that eats Lambos at the strip. Yeah, that was a great one. And MFer, of course, meaning motherfucker. I'm just trying to be clean. But this guy basically just bought an eBay Turbo, slapped it on an LS, threw the LS in a 240. I think it was a 242, and basically just roasted everyone because who cares? It was like I think it was like a junkyard 5.3. Whatever he put in there, it
was nasty.
wild. Yeah. Trevor, what's going on? Nice to see you. Is that the Trevor?
That's the Trevor.
Oh, the Trevor. Welcome, the Trevor. We're debating supercars per your guys' last video.
Yeah,
but like
I'm getting my butthole ripped apart.
no, but this is good. You know, and to continue the ripping, it's great when you're wrong on the internet because you know you get to have lots of conversation and good views around it. So
yeah, for sure.
I've been doing it for many years.
I knew some of the stuff that we posted was definitely like not supercar related at all. Like I told Trevor my plan for the next video, I was like, I really want to like make some people cringe and get them upset. And I was like, I know what I'm going to do. Why the Chrysler Prowler is cool. Fight me.
Oh, dude, absolutely. Oh, and if you want to make people really angry, call it the Chrysler Prowler because it's a Plymouth Prowler.
Yeah, Chrysler. Yeah.
So you're already on the right track.
I'm already on the right path. Oh my gosh.
No, but
growing up as a kid.
I will tell you though, that is an accurate statement. They are cool. Whether no one wants to admit it or not, they actually are pretty cool. You have open linkage front end. What's not cool about that?
Seeing one of those, and I was like, what is that? Like as a kid, I was like, that is so cool.
It's sick.
Ever since growing up, I think it's wicked. I think it's a modern hot rod. I have a 32 Deuce, you know, in my garage now.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh man, it's pretty cool. I was like, it's a modern version of that, just stretched out, but with a crappy V6 motor.
Yeah.
And it has no power.
Yeah. Make this insanely cool concept looking hot rod car and let's put a horrific engine and a even more horrific slush box of a transmission in there. That'll sell.
Yeah. Well, so, man, you know what right. So there's a guy on YouTube that put a Hellcat motor in one of them, and I was like, "That's cool."
Very
now we're
cool.
talking. Now I can get with that. But
I love that, but you don't even need that. You could put like a pissed off 4-cylinder. I mean, it was the late 90s, so you're not going to get it. But you could put a pissed off 4-cylinder in there. You could put a really angry K motor from Honda in a Prowler, and it would rip
and make some power.
Yeah, I mean. You wouldn't even need a Hellcat. You could just put like any V8 in there, honestly. It would be great.
Yeah.
Just like a normal V8.
It would sound good.
Yeah, exactly. So
a lot of people don't, because they think it's just a stretched out, you know, PT Cruiser with only 2 seats. Which is.
I mean,
it is.
You're not wrong.
But I like
you're
PT Cruisers too, though. I love the PT Cruiser. They made a Woody version.
Yeah, I know. I mean, look, the PT Cruiser actually does get a pretty bad name because I think Chad and I have talked about this before. The PT Cruiser actually has the SRT4 motor in it in one of the trims. So if you want to talk about like an actual sleeper, you can turn one of those things into a screaming horrific looking grandma car missile like that. That would
with the kids in the back.
Yeah, with the kids in the back.
And it'll sound absolutely nasty doing it too.
Yeah, I mean, I would never ever do that, but you can.
Yeah.
I leave for like 5 minutes and we start spouting pure nonsense.
Oh, dude.
The PT Cruiser?
I mean, look,
both getting muted.
If you're looking for an actual
We're talking about supercars.
Though, and you know what the SRT4 motors can actually do, like those motors are very good. Dude, if you actually want to make like a troll sleeper, that PT Cruiser is an excellent candidate for that build because you would roll up to everyone just be like, what is that? And then you destroy everything. And they're like, oh, okay, that fucker means business. Like, that'd be a great troll build.
Yeah, I think they're wicked. Yeah, it's probably a supercar. Yeah, I should have put that in my supercar video, dang it.
Please no. Chad's like, Keith is not invited back to this podcast.
100% he is. Always. I love it.
Oh gosh, no, we were talking about the Prowler, and how did you even get? I was talking about
You
like
said a
Put up
two-seat
the next
PT
video
Cruiser.
if you want
because
to
some of
really annoy
the cars
people.
that we picked as supercars,
Yeah.
they were not, I like the C7 Corvette. I told Trevor, I was like, it's not a supercar. We're gonna put it on there.
The ZR1 is.
Yeah. So,
I'd
but
argue the
I
Z06
was
is
like,
because it beat the McLaren 650S around VIR for car
yeah,
for
but
car and
they're
drivers
everywhere.
lightning
You see
lap.
Z06s everywhere.
I mean, they are everywhere, but again, I think there are cars that are on the borderline of supercar. Like, I think the performance of that car, the speed of it, and I think they are still slightly unattainable. C6 Z06s that are not total shit kickers are still like 70, 80 plus
My
$1,000. It's not cheap.
my dad's got his is a C6 and it's a Z06. I think it makes about 980 horsepower maybe.
Phew.
It's built. Yeah, it's built.
Nice.
But dude, he got it for 42.
Yeah, well, yeah. So
So
C6s that's another arguable one. I mean,
right.
that was I mean, the C5 Z06 was good. The C6 Z06 was great. Still
Great.
is great.
Yes.
But is that a
Dude,
supercar?
that thing
Because
chops.
they are much more common, like overall. They're fast. They're not exotic. I mean, I'm just
No.
going by my criteria. Like, to me,
And the only way a Z06 separates
tough.
itself from every other Corvette is the badge.
yes,
That's it. There's not
This-
that's it.
the C6 was very subtle. There was not a lot you would know. You like little wider body, cool.
Right,
Those that
but that's
know, and like a couple of places here and there. There's not a lot to know that it's like a Z06
Other than that,
if
looks
you're
like
not a
another
car
vet.
enthusiast.
Right. Yep. Because when my dad brought it, I was like, "Sweet, you got a vet." He goes, "You don't see the badge?" I was like, "I said, oh shit, it's a Z06." And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah."
Yeah.
I was like, "Now it's cool."
I don't know. I would say, I don't know. For me, I'd say the C7 Z06 is closer to a supercar than the C6 Z06. But you can build a C6 Z06
I
to
agree.
be a supercar.
Let me ask you a question. Ferrari 550 and 575 supercar.
This is,
It's
those are
90s
Ferraris,
hard because it's got
right?
the word Ferrari on it.
It's got a Ferrari.
Yeah, but there are
Ferrari-
some Ferraris that aren't supercars,
Right, correct, but
even for the period.
You know, the Daytona immediately springs to mind. The 250 short wheelbase.
Yeah, I'd say the 348, not a supercar. 355, yes, for its period,
day,
yes.
Because
For its day.
you can trace
But remember,
its
remember that
lineage.
it can be for its day. I would say no. Honestly, I would say that those aren't supercars. I would say that those are luxurious sporting GTs. I don't think that those are supercars.
they're lower in bracket.
Yeah, well, they're
They
a high-end
tick a lot of
exotic,
boxes.
and they're. I personally think those fall into the high-performance GT car, right?
Yeah,
so
I
you
agree.
can have. There's the GT car or Grand Touring car. You can have a whole. There's so many different sub classifications of that, right? Like you look at, for example, a Ferrari at 550 and a Bentley GT. We're both calling Grand Tours, but you put those, on a back road, and the Ferrari's just going to disappear. Just
Yeah,
Yeah.
because unfortunately for the Bentley, physics exist.
it's big. Yeah, it's big. It's wide.
Yeah.
So and the reason I bring up those Ferraris is that the C6 Z06 matched in every way, if not exceeded in some ways, the 550 and 575 in performance metrics.
Yeah.
The interior is
See, I mean-
what lets down the C6.
Correct. Yeah.
Which is not a secret.
yeah. It's just basic, dude. It looks like a regular Chevy.
And Chevy
does.
during that time frame, their interiors were awful.
Yeah.
Just
Durable but awful.
they, I just remember you could go around the time of the C6 was also when I happened to work for Enterprise, and I'd sit in a Malibu, and then I'd sit in a Corvette, and I'd look, why the hell does this have the same volume knob? Why is the radio the same?
And it's that green. It's like that. What's that one green? Whenever you see on the radio,
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah,
it's,
that same color.
the digital display that was the green that every single car had for the longest
Yeah,
time.
and every single Chevy had that
Yep.
same digital green.
Well, so
I was
many cars did because that was just the time period, except for BMW, which
Yeah.
always had it red. It was the same thing, but it was red.
oh, they
Yep.
had the same
I
gauge
hated their-
cluster for decades.
And it was garbage for the longest
Mhm.
time. God.
It was that gray and
Yep.
white, like it's like okay, it's
And some of it, and then at night it was orange. Everything was just orange.
Yep.
you know, it was cool in
It's
like
just-
the E46 M3 how you had the progressive shift light in the tack. Like I will give them credit for that, but the rest of it just looked like it was they went and, you know, contracted Tupperware to make them a gauge cluster. It just like it's still, and I've mentioned this multiple times, it still boggles my mind that you can get out of an E46 M3 arguably the best thing BMW has ever created. From all things.
They're nasty.
Right? You can get out of that, look at the dash, and let's just say 2002 because that was my experience, right? 2002 E46 M3 and get into a 2002 Lexus IS and have the Lexus feel like it's 10 years newer. You know,
Which is weird because it's reversed now.
Right?
I mean, I still think of a lot of companies, Lexus does interiors really, really well because there's
Oh, they do. It's just outdated because they've been using the same interior for like 20 years.
Dude, you go into, I mean, yeah, the F Sports are cool with that sweet red interior. I absolutely love it. I actually saw one today and I was like, oh, God, I love this interior. I said, but I guarantee you this is like a 19 or 2020. And sure enough, I was like, it's just the same. Nothing's changed on them.
Yeah.
So, kind of like Nissan. Nissan's biggest
oh god,
issue was their interior has never changed. But like, what, 15 years?
Yeah.
Just all black.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're
well,
not good.
Nissan in general hasn't progressed since the first Bush was in office.
Yeah.
Same with Infinity. I mean, Infinity's Nissan, so you know, you look at Infinity, they have a $80,000 price tag. As soon as you drive it off the showroom floor, it drops 40 grand.
Ooh, man, Infinity is in a world of hurt, by the way. They have only sold like 50,000 cars this year as a company in the U.S. Yeah, it's bad.
rough.
It's bad. Like,
But it's like the Q50 is a solid car, though.
oh yeah, they're
That's a
killing that,
fun
by the way.
car. I know, I saw that. Yep. And a Jaguar F-Type.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
I'm 100% looking for one all day.
Yeah.
I love
That's
those
another
cars.
one. That's another arguable supercar. Again, I think it's a sporting GT. It's not a supercar, but like, it's not.
Right.
It's not really exotic. They've made a lot of them, but like, it's fast. Got a big V8 engine. Sounds amazing. They're not. They are attainable. They're not unattainable.
Oh, they're super attainable.
like,
Absolutely.
The V8s even.
Dude,
like,
$22,000 down here.
yeah, I mean, even the V8s you can get for 35, 45,000, which is
Exactly.
not a lot of money for that much car.
Right. Would you argue to say that it at least looks like a supercar, or would you think it just looks like a nice, clean, sporty?
I think it's
I
a
don't
textbook definition of a Grand Tour. Looks
Yeah,
wise.
I would agree with
Yeah.
that.
Long
I don't think
hood,
it looks
short
like a
dash.
supercar.
I mean, and again,
Yeah, it's just a sleek design.
it's a beautiful
Yeah.
car. It's absolutely nailed. I think it was the same guy who did the Vantage that you owned. It
Yep,
was
it was Ian Callum.
you know, absolutely epic piece of design, and they needed to have it be that way because F-Type, they made no bones about it that this is a modern E-Type.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and it's really well done. They have a lot of performance. It's just a quintessential it's a sporty Grand Tour. It is a sports car, but
It's fun.
they're
It's a lot. We test drove one last year. My wife and I went to Birmingham, Alabama, Barber Motorsports Museum. If you haven't been there, you need to take a trip there because it is so freaking awesome. It's the world's largest motorcycle museum.
Nice.
So, oh yeah, and it's dirt. I mean, literally, the elevator You got 4 stories, and the elevator is wrapped around. Like as you're going up, you're looking at motorcycles through the glass.
That's cool.
It is huge. But on the lower level though, they have all the Lotuses. Every year Lotus they have. That's where that picture came from. They have 4 GTs there. It's a massive, massive museum. But anyways, because Barber Motorsports is there, there's a lot of like used car dealerships, and it's exotic car dealerships.
Right.
And I was like, oh man, that's cool, And I'm going over here, and I'm like, check out that. I haven't seen like an Alfa Romeo 4C. I don't see many of those, and so I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I want to check that out, And sure enough, we got a salesman that was like, well, test drive your stuff. I was like, well, I'm not really. I was like, I'm just looking. I'm not really buying, so I don't want to waste your time. He goes, I'm bored. I got nothing to do. We can test drive some stuff. I was like, my man.
Nice.
So
what's in the garage that you're not displaying right now?
do I? So I was like, so we looked at, and he wouldn't let us test drive the Ferraris and Lamborghinis. He's like, can't let you do those, but I got a Jaguar F-Type you can roll in. We got a Tesla X out here that y'all can have some fun in. I was like, ooh. There was just a bunch of other stuff. He goes, you want to ride the Alfa Romeo? You can do that. I was like, heck yeah. Heck yeah.
That's awesome.
And he goes, here's the key to the F-Type. Go have some fun. And my wife and I drove it around. I was like, this is cool. It feels good.
Is it the V6 or is it the V8?
It was the V8. It was
Nice.
the V8. It had great sounds. Because that's the first thing I asked him. I said, is this the V6 or is this the R? He goes, this is the R. I was like, really? Boy? And he goes, yeah, it sounds nasty. He goes, someone did some exhaust work and it sounds really good. We got I recorded us doing pulls on it. And my wife's like, this is pretty sweet. I was like, what? I was like, I've never even heard of like Jaguar making this sports car at first. And I was like, what? And then I looked them up and I was like, these things are cheap because they had it for sale for like $37,000, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a lot. And I was like, and it had like 60,000 miles, which seemed a little high, but still.
For those,
it was sharp.
I mean, you see them all day, like 60, 70, 80,000 miles, honestly. They have the engine on those things are very, very reliable. I mean, it's an AJ-derived block, so
that's what I keep hearing.
The engines are quite good, and they'll go for a while. It's just, again, same thing with British cars. Everything around it is what fails. The electronics, the diff. If you have the rear-wheel drive version, the diff. Yeah, exactly. So, there's a great question in chat from Anthony. Next question: can an EV be a supercar? There is a hot debate around this. I'll save my opinion for last on this one. You gentlemen go first.
Can it? Okay. So, go ahead, Greg. Or not, Chad.
Yeah, go ahead, Greg. You just said you weren't going.
I was just gonna say, if you guys want to formulate thoughts, I have a thought on this.
No,
and my opinion is yes.
I think, technically speaking, yes. I think they. Here's the thing: you see a lot of like the Rimacs and the on like that are border hypercars. So it's like it's hard to sit here and say that you can have an electric hypercar and just skip over sports and supercar, right?
That's a great point.
But it also brings up a point that I don't think we've made about a supercar. And I immediately thought of the Lotus on this specific, but like noise plays a large factor in it, right? As far as like the experience, think about all the best supercars
right.
and that, right? And like obviously EVs, a high performance EV creates its own noise, albeit different. That electric hum.
Yeah.
I think they can be. I think, for lack of a better way of saying
unless if you're like Dodge, you just put a speaker underneath.
Yeah, and that's fake. And anything that has fake, go away, in my opinion. Like, I don't want fake. Honestly, EVs, if you've ever listened to, whether it be the, like if you ever listen to the onboard of like a Volkswagen IDR or any of the electric race cars that have like done Pikes Peak or Time Attack or anything like that, they make their own noise. You know? And I don't think you're going to ingratiate electric cars to people by giving fake noise to.
Oh God, no! It's cringe.
It's 100%. It is. It's like to me, it's a much more extreme and unforgivable offense as up badging your car. You know, as putting the M badge on an M BMW,
Yeah.
or, you know, me putting a Shelby Cobra on my car, or Greg putting a. Actually, you have the Polestar, so good on you.
I mean, I would say that yes, EVs can be supercars, and I would actually ask, what is an EV supercar? Because to your point, Chad, great point.
Right.
Most of them are hypercars. Because if you're talking about the really truly fast EVs and the ones that are sort of
They're
in that rare exotic,
stupid.
like you're talking about like Rimac Nevera, like you're talking about that sort of like echelon of car, right? Which is hypercar. Like that's not a supercar. That's
Right.
well
We're way
beyond.
past the supercar now.
2,000 horsepower, 0 to 60 in less than 2 seconds, top speed of 100, whatever. Insanely unattainable. Like that's hypercar territory. Like that's Koenigsegg territory. But I mean, to me, I'd say to Chad's point also, it's less about noise and more about aura. You know, like the car has to
Yeah,
have like a
that's a
certain
great
aura
word.
around it. Like there, like the like Tesla Model S Plaid by all measures is a supercar.
Too heavy.
I would agree.
Like
Yes.
it's common, but the Plaid version is not as common. It's an up versioned part of that, but like there's no aura around that car at all. Like it's a one trick pony. It's biblically fast, but like
It doesn't scream supercar when you look at
it's
it,
not
though.
a supercar. It's a four-door
But
sedan that
I will
happens
sit
to
here
go
and say,
fast.
I
Like
will
it's
sit here
not a
and say,
supercar.
when it comes to the Model S Plaid and Teslas in general, the fast ones, they're one trick ponies to me. To me,
Right.
they're
that's the
closer
thing.
to a Hellcat
Right.
in terms of
Yes.
what they can do than a
That's
911.
yeah.
Here's the thing with
Yeah, I agree.
with electric cars is that because of the ease or the price to pay or entry to high performance is so easy on electric cars, right? You don't you need a battery pack to support the discharge to give you a reasonable enough range to, right? But electric, it's not like if Greg wanted to slap an unimaginably large turbo to his car, he'd have to rebuild the internals and stuff. And I'm not saying Greg as a tuner. I'm saying, you know, let's just say Greg is Polestar or whatever, right? You know, it's why the LS blocks or the internals have to be reinforced and built for, say, the Z06, the C7 Z06 or what have you, right? When it comes to electric cars, your electric motor, you just add another one. You know, like
Yeah.
you just, I guess that's kind of similar, but the same token is now you've just doubled your output. You've literally doubled your output, and you haven't had to make any sort of special fueling or all this other sort of stuff. So you could just go straight from super sedan, like the Model S Plaid, okay, well, what if we put that in a chassis that's designed to handle, designed to actually, I don't know, have, brake for more than 17 minutes before everything overheats.
Oh, you mean like the Roadster that doesn't exist?
I mean, is it orbiting Mars yet?
Probably.
You know,
Maybe instead of shooting one into space, they should have actually made one.
Actually kept
no,
it.
you have to understand,
Man.
Elon learned from Steve Jobs. It's better to create hype than an actual product.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know, so you could sit here and you could have plopped all this into a quote unquote sports car chassis, but it doesn't take much more effort to give it an extra 500 horsepower, an extra,
Sure.
and all that.
Right.
Also. So they just leapfrogged and went straight to hypercar. I think that will eventually trickle down. You know, have the same sort of setup, but instead of two 500 horsepower motors, you have two 300 horsepower motors or whatever. The thing is, it'll eventually trickle down, and to me, to have it'll eventually trickle down. But for right now, every single person who does anything EV wise they have such a barrier to get through when it comes to performance because people like internal combustion way more than they like EVs.
Right.
That the only way that they become special is to be unimaginably fast. And then by that point, they're now in the hypercar realm.
Yeah.
And that's where it goes back to where I think, back what Greg said, there's no aura like of it, like that presence of having a supercar. And I think that's going to be really hard for an EV is because you either have a basic electric vehicle or you have a hypercar. I haven't seen a really solid in between. Because like you said, the Plaid's cool. The Plaid's wicked. But it doesn't, I'm like, if I see one driving, I'm like, oh, it's a Tesla.
Right.
I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm like, what is that, bro? No, I'm not going to be getting out of my seat looking to see what that is.
Yeah.
And so, like, for them, it would be having to make an EV that looks the exotic, that gives that aggressive and just wow factor, but without also having that 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. Because then at that point, we're past supercar,
Exactly.
and also price point too.
Yeah.
Price point, with the way EVs are, something like that. Let's say they did create something like that. Then it would classify as a supercar because it'd probably be like 150 grand, easy, no problem. But the way that electric motors are and the way they make them, you can get a Tesla do 0 to 60 and still buy 150 grand.
Right.
Quick. So
Yeah.
still got a hypercar if you wanted to call it that.
Yeah. I think that, those, and that gets, to me, that gets boring real fast. Like,
right.
You also can't, like,
But
you can't exploit that on a public road. Like, it's, if you're an enthusiast buying like a Model 3 Performance, very fast car, very quick car, like, you can't really exploit that unless you're going to a drag strip. And, to me, that's like the death knell for me for like, oh, okay, well, that's not a sports car. It's not a supercar. It's not a hypercar. Like,
yeah.
It ticks none of the boxes. Then it's fast, and that's it.
Right.
Like,
and that's it. Yeah.
And there's no aura. It's just regular traffic.
Yeah. Regular traffic. Yep. I don't think electric is the future, though. Me personally, I just don't think that's going to be. It's just temporary.
We've talked about it ad nauseum on this podcast too. Like, I think that it's going to be part of the future. I don't think it's the future. To me,
I don't think it's the future.
To me, it's synthetic fuels or it's hydrogen. Those are my two.
Hydrogen. I think hydrogen is going to be the way that everybody's going to eventually go.
The most abundant element in the
sense.
Entire universe. Why don't we just fucking harness that?
Let's
go for it.
That. Yeah.
Because we've been harnessing, I think, what is it, the second or third most abundant element in the universe?
Yeah, exactly. We're way behind. The second or third is bullshit. We need the first. We need the best element. Number one element.
Because people like money. That's the biggest thing. They like money. If they can make money off of it, they're going to do it.
That's right.
If you can get something free and turn it into something free,
I mean, but if you think catalytic
because
converter theft is bad, just wait until you start having these fuel cell cars with fucking platinum underneath them.
Oh, God.
Hey, so speaking of that real quick, Florida just had a bunch of, they had 2 hurricanes back to back. Hurricane Helene.
So you're going to buy a lot of flood damage cars?
Teslas were catching on fire like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
How so many houses were getting burned down because Teslas, once that salt water got into that battery, isn't that crazy?
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, if you live in Florida, don't get a Tesla.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole other topic. Just because, like,
I know. He was talking batteries, and I was like, "Oh man."
No, I know. But it's something to think about, because if you have an electric vehicle, it could do that. Also, internal combustion cars catch on fire way more frequently than EVs do. So, and it's not just they make more ICE cars. It's like, no, the actual percentage of ones that catch on fire is still insanely higher with ICEs, and like there's data to back it up. But like,
data, you say?
You have
data
something that's gonna
data you say about this?
There is.
Oh, really?
Yes, there is. There's many much data.
Many much data.
I've never seen an internal combustion car catch fire ever.
Yeah.
What?
We don't even have a fire. We don't even have a fire department. In as far as where I work for insurance, we don't even have fire claim people.
But in my car's defense, you know what let it down? The battery. Therefore, EVs are at fault.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, data. Chat is an N of one. He is the data.
The funniest thing about that whole entire thing is the fact that I think it was like it had to be like a month prior to my car going, maybe 2 months. There was a woman who was uninformed, but like I wouldn't say ignorant or what have you, and wasn't nasty or whatever. And she was just asking questions about her neighbor installing like stuff for, electric car charging and stuff like that. And I mentioned some things to her and et cetera or what have you. One of which being, I don't know if this is going to put your mind at ease, but statistically speaking, all of the internal combustion cars that are around here are far more likely to catch fire. I was really not hoping to be a case, like to prove myself.
Oh man, that's brutal.
Like,
you're just like, that bitch was right.
it's like, well, no, it's like, well, Exhibit A, fuck.
Well, shit. But no, I mean, really, it boils down to what makes the big sexy headline, and Tesla's catching on fire are big sexy headlines.
Oh, that's absolutely.
We just hear about them more. Me. Trust me, way more Toyota Corollas are catching fire than Teslas.
And there's so much involved in all of that stuff, right?
But here's the thing. I will say this. The reason that I think they catch so much attention is because they're extremely hard to put out.
That's part of it, yeah.
So fire departments have an actual, they have to go through a serious amount of training just to do it, because that fire will last for hours, a long time. And we even have special training when it comes to that stuff of how to look for that and what to do. But it's not your average just car fire. It is a long, long one, and it takes...
Yeah.
I mean, there's just tons of information out there about it where it takes a long time to put them out.
Well, what fire departments just need is a hose filled with sand. That's what... Just start sandblasting the car. Bury it. That will put out a big old fire.
Kill all the oxygen. Yeah.
Yep, that'll put out a big old fire. Big blanket. Giant car blanket. Just put it all out.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
Big, heavy, those weighted blankets you sleep on? Just make an industrial size one and drop it from a crane right on top of a Tesla.
We might have a business idea here.
And now we're going to have fast response cranes?
Yes, why not? We got fast response helicopters. They could just medevac that shit right in.
We'll get Elon's cyber cab to come help us.
There you go.
Put out his
Tesla cab. Oh my God! Did you see the post about the guy that made iRobot, the movie? Basically said that Elon Musk copied all of his ideas for all of his stuff, and it literally is the Tesla robot looking the same. The freaking Robo van or whatever the hell it is looks the same, and the Robo taxi, they all look exactly the freaking same.
He did that on purpose.
100%. I bet he did.
100%.
Well, the SpaceX rockets, why they have like a point to them, or some of them have a point to them, was literally because of the scene from The Dictator, the Sacha Baron.
Oh, yes.
It is not scary. It needs point. Like, he literally did that.
It needs points.
That's right.
The guy's got a sense of humor. You got to give it to him.
I mean, the Tesla models spell sexy. S3XY. E3 is just a backwards E.
I never knew that.
Yeah, that's the big joke. It's like, oh yeah, the Tesla's sexy line. That's the whole thing.
So did we decide if electric vehicle could be a supercar? I think it could be.
I think it can, but I don't think there is one. I think there's mostly just
I don't think there
hypercars.
is one, though.
I think if you put a Lotus Emira EV in there with about 400-ish horsepower from electric power, I think that's or maybe 500. I'd say that's a supercar because it's exotic looking. It'll be expensive. I mean, hell.
Definitely be rare.
I mean, it can be rare. I mean, I think that there will be electric supercars. I just think that there aren't any right now. I think it's mostly either sports cars or sporty-ish cars or hypercars. I don't think that there's really an in between.
And see, I feel like the one company that I think would do really well if they did it, but I don't think I think they got out of the electric game, so correct me if I'm wrong, is Ford. I could see Ford doing something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But they're pulling out of the electric game, if I'm not mistaken, right? Aren't they not making
No, they're still doing it. They're just scaling back. They're going to focus.
Right.
A lot of these companies are focusing more on hybrid stuff, just because the people that want EVs have already bought them,
right?
and people
And
are still
nobody,
buying
nobody
them.
wants them.
It's just demand has slowed a lot. So again, it's that big sexy headline. Nobody wants EVs. Well, that's not true. A lot of people
Yeah.
still want EVs. They're still buying them, and sales are still at all-time highs. That's just the reality of it.
Yeah,
It's
my
just
buddy
they're
just bought
not
one. Yeah.
they're not hitting the forecasts that they thought they would, even with the supply that they have. It's because not everyone wants EVs, and that's just a fact. It's not like nobody wants to be forced to buy an internal combustion car. No one wants to be forced to buy an EV. No one wants to be forced to buy a hybrid. People want choice.
To make the decision. Yeah.
People want to make the decision themselves. And now, if you have a company making internal combustion, hybrids, and EVs, those are the companies that are going to rise to the top. And I think Ford is going to be in that category.
Yeah. Because I think Ford and Audi were on the same page, don't they? Aren't they partners? Ford and
Ford
Audi.
and Audi?
Audi. I thought.
I think Ford,
they,
on
they
EV
used-
front?
Ford was partnered with BMW on solid state battery tech.
Yeah.
I thought it was turbos. I thought they used, or maybe it was Volkswagen. They used Volkswagen turbos or Audi turbos.
I mean, it's distinctly possible.
I may
So
be
much,
mistaken.
so much of that stuff when it comes to like brakes, turbos,
It's
a lot of
outsourced
that
everywhere,
stuff.
yeah.
A lot of that is just like a rebadged Garrett or
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
You know.
Yeah. I could have sworn.
you know,
I don't know.
it's I'll put it this way, I think for an EV supercar, I just don't think right now there's any appetite whatsoever for one. As far as the market is concerned, like there's not enough of a market demand for. It's like, well, what? Oh, I hear you got an EV or that new, Rimac. It's an EV, right? It's like, yes, and it will leave you and your next 4 generations in the dust, as opposed to the EV that's like, oh, I heard you got the new, blah 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 EV, right? And they're like, yes, and it's as fast as a Porsche 911. It's like. When you start talking
Mine sounds cooler.
when you start talking supercars, hypercars, exotics in general, there is a large proponent to it outside of your car guys or car people, car gals, whatever, who just love the engineering, love the car for what it is, and if they have the means, they get it. But there is also an equally, and if not, I would argue the majority, where these things are effectively cock extensions that they can use at the country club. To be like, oh, what's that? Last year's S-Class? Peasant. Like...
Yeah. Yep.
And
Yeah.
I just don't think there's a place for it. If it performs as well as something that already exists, it's like, what's the point? And I'm not saying there's not a point. I'm not saying there isn't a reason to do it, to explore, to sit here and say it's like, well, we can make this, $1 million hypercar with EV. What if we halved everything or didn't use as advanced technology? Because most of these things are effectively software driven, right? And made it affordable. Would people want it? And they'd be like, I'll take my stuff that uses explosive dinosaur. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Because that's what most car people want.
That was going to be my argument for the fires. Oh wait, you're telling me that something that has controlled explosions inside catches on fire a lot? How crazy is that? That's wild.
Goes back to the old marketing when steam-powered cars were around. They called internal combustion explosion engines.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, steam
Right.
cars have literally an
Awesome.
open flame. Just saying.
I was just gonna say, yeah. steam. How is that made exactly? Heat. Oh yeah, and they had
Heat.
flame.
Oh,
They
yes.
Yes. Oh.
Back then, they
oh,
were just
what about
lighting
that catching on
lithium-ion
fire?
batteries on fire. The fire was going to be there for forever.
So what we're saying is the ultimate propulsion is something to do with fire or something catching on fire. Noted.
Makes power.
Nailed it.
I mean, you don't see electric-powered rockets, just saying.
Yeah. All right, you
Not
guys keep
yet.
going. I shall be right back this time.
Let's all just be quiet as Greg walks away. Make it nice and awkward.
Yes, make it
There.
awkward.
Oh, man.
Imagine if you just ripped ass on accident while walking away. That'd make the stream just pop.
I thought
Combustion. Going back to combustion.
Greg is his own renewable resource. I bet your wife disagrees. No, it's an interesting concept. I do want to point one thing out. It's like, I just want to say, Anthony, prior to your venture into owning an electric vehicle, you didn't have as many electric car questions. Just saying. You might want to put the Kool-Aid down. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, Sean goes, make an electric luxury car that's so quiet it's like chamber. I'm not even going to attempt to read that. I mean, I'm pretty sure the Lucids, like the Airs, are crazy quiet inside when you want them to be. Anthony goes, electricity is just a really fast-moving fire. Possibly.
Facts.
I mean, it's electrons. I mean, I don't want to turn this into a physics show, but stream of electrons. Yeah, we're just going to move on before my brain...
More you know.
Well, my brain's going to latch onto that and start trying to figure out
And then we're
the
gonna be on a
differences.
completely
And it's
different
just,
topic.
you're just going to see code like bouncing around. What was I going to say?
So I got a question for you though, and I think this would be good. So going back to like the supercars, what is a car that you would classify as a supercar, but you feel like others would disagree?
I mean, my first thing was the trucks I mentioned earlier, just because
Yep.
they tick every box. It just doesn't happen on pavement. Again, we've covered that, so no really. Let's move on. See, I think one of the ones the closest one I could think of off the top of my head would be a C6 Z06, just because from an engineering standpoint, it does a lot. The engine's lower and moved back than the standard C6 Corvette. It uses exotic materials like magnesium, carbon fiber where it can. It has the performance to back it up, but the interior lets it down.
And also the look.
I mean, the look, yes, but
It's it just at the end of the day, it looks like another Corvette. To someone that doesn't really know Corvettes, they can look and be like, "Oh, look, a Corvette."
right.
Because there's so many.
That there is. When they were new, right? But there is a panache to Corvette. There is a sense of you're seeing something special when a Corvette drives by throughout the years, right? We may look back at like the C4 or the Malaise era of the C3 and even C5s now, and just look at them and they've become common. But of the day,
Right.
you saw a Corvette drive by, and most people, especially in America, right?
Yeah.
Oh, there's something special, right?
You're absolutely right. Yeah, no, that's a very good point. Because the C8's a great example with the whole new body style and everything. It looks like a supercar, and I think some versions of it definitely qualify. Yeah, it's a supercar, but then some of them are not. But it still has that look of like, what did I just see? I think that's a Corvette. Is that the new Corvette? To really like get up on it and see. So that makes perfect sense because of that day, people are gonna be like, "Damn, that's a Corvette. That's badass," you know. So that's a good point.
You know, there's all like, not to be the quote unquote Mustang guy, right? But there's an argument for the GT500, the S550 GT500, which around a track is every bit as fast as a Porsche 911 GT3 RS. You know,
Yeah. Oh God, I love that
you
car.
know, but you know, again, it goes back to like my original definition is intent, right? When they make a Mustang, they're not going for, well, prior to the GTD, I will argue that that is 110% a supercar just because of how different it is, just the level of engineering to it. I mean, I could have an argument with myself
Right.
right now. It also falls in line with the, yes, it's a Mustang, but it's a supercar because, and now you're explaining more of it. So, like, it goes back and forth. But,
To where if you have to explain it, it isn't.
I'm just trying to think here.
Yeah.
It's like, is the Audi R8 a supercar? It's effectively
I was gonna ask
it's
that.
effectively a Huracan. So we're saying the Huracan is 100% a supercar. Just I Lambo don't make not supercars. I mean, there's a handful that aren't,
Right.
just because they were just trying to spite Ferrari at that point.
Yeah.
Um,
I would definitely call Audi R8 a
you
supercar.
know,
It is. It is. When it first came out, you got the. I mean, you first of all, you have a. I thought it looked absolutely insane. The engines in the back with the glass, so you could see it just that roaring motor. It had a crazy interior. I thought it was absolutely wicked. It was expensive as all get out, and you didn't see it's rare that I see Audi R8. Very rare.
I would argue,
I'll see a Lam. I would see a Lambo Huracan more than I would a R8, honestly.
and it, again, it ticks all of the boxes. Mid-engine, designed with purpose. And here's the
Yeah.
thing. I've mentioned this before. I would absolutely prefer a V8 R8 with a couple of turbos on it, and to match or
Mm,
exceed the performance of the V10 over the V10. For whatever reason, I'm
yeah.
not a.
Because turbos are
It's
awesome.
not even that turbos are awesome. Like, they are, and they make great noises, and they're with
Yes.
modern turbos, the efficiency at which you can make power is incredible. Um,
It's crazy.
I
Yeah.
also like the sleeper-ish. It's just a V8 R8, like whatever. But
Yeah. Watch this.
V10s, like, I was never a big. I, I will sit here and say this: when the cylinder count gets to 10 or 12, I prefer V8 noises over them.
And I agree because, for instance, the Lexus LFA, it's wicked, but I'm not crazy about the sound. At the same time, I'm just like,
I
hmm.
actually like the sound
But
of the 5 cylinders better. I don't know if it's just that mono
right.
nature of it. Um, you know, uh, here,
I like a deep rumble, man. I like that deep, throaty feel. And whenever you get into those V10s, V12s, it's high pitched. Yeah, it's fast as fuck, but it's just wee wee wee. It's just
yeah, it's that.
I don't know.
I 100% agree with you. Like, the pitch is, I don't know, it's strange, but I think
It's
I have the car to answer your question. Um,
let's see.
you may agree, may disagree, or what have you, but I was just thinking about it mostly because I just did a video on it. But the Dodge Viper,
Oh, I love a Viper.
you know,
I love
you
dude.
want to talk about something that is purpose built.
Dude, that thing's freaking nasty. Not my neighbor, but my good buddy that lives not too far from me, he's got three of them. Dude, they're freaking insane. He's got two ACRs, and I forget which the other one is. But no, I 100%. You say Dodge Viper, especially because the new body style started what 2014 is when they came out with the most recent like body
Yes.
style. Yeah, that body style, white with the blue, with that Viper on the hood. Holy shit, that thing is nasty. And not only does it look nasty, it sounds nasty. I just, man, yeah, that car can get it 100%.
Yeah, it's. I mean, argu like that is arguably
And you don't see
one
them.
of my first.
They're rare.
They're, I mean, they're rare. I mean, there's just they have that Shelby connection, but they're built for out and out performance. Like That's probably the first car I buy if I ever won like Mega Millions. Was
That's a good one. That's a great car too, dude. That thing's just. Uh, I think what's so great is on. They say when you get like the first gens and stuff like that, like, oh, when you get this, prepare to have scars on your legs. I never got that, and then I finally understood, like, because where the exhaust came out, it's so freaking hot that every time it just scald the shit out of your ankle or shin trying to get in and out of the car.
oh yeah.
My
I mean
God.
the first Vipers, the RT what the hell were they called? The literally the first production Vipers, the convertibles didn't have AC.
Yes, like nothing.
It's just I mean, personally my favorite ever Viper is technically the second gen or the first of the GTSs. Just because of one, I love the look. Two,
Yes.
when it comes to race cars, they were kicking the ever living crap out of all of the Europeans and stuff like that. It's just, and it was done the American way. It was like, yeah, it's got a V10. It's 8 liters. So basically 2 of your little piddly things over there, Europe. And it was just, it was fantastic. Some of the best racing I remember watching growing up as a kid was American Le Mans Series / Le Mans 24 Hours and everything. Was watching the Vipers and the Corvettes do battle, because you had on one side you had an 8-liter V10, on the other side you had a 427 cubic inch V8, and they were fighting for the wins while everybody else was behind them. And then like the next closest thing that was competitive to them was a freaking Saline, which was like, hey, when we decide to make a supercar,
Oh, God, a Saline.
the S7,
Yeah.
the S7 is the I have unlimited money car. I would absolutely want it. Oh, I love those things, especially the later generations of them. Look so good.
Yeah.
Yes.
The cockpit's really small. I hear that they're not the best driver's cars, but I agree with you. They look so sick.
They
If I
look
had
nasty.
money, I'd just be like, yeah, give me one of those.
And
those are sick.
and not for nothing, they are appreciating every single year. But
Yeah,
another,
because they're supercars. They're rare. They're exotic. They're unattainable. Price goes up.
and
Yeah, we were talking about different ones. We mentioned the Audi R8 being a supercar.
Yep.
Yep.
Agree.
But we were also on the mindset that we didn't really care how 10 and 12 cylinders sounded. Like, I'm not a fan. Like the Lexus LFA, I just not. Everybody says it's the best sounding car, and to me, I personally didn't agree.
put
I
a
like
good
a
exhaust
big,
on a 2UR, and I'll take that over the LFA sound. Now, would I want to play with that engine and put it in like, I don't know, like a Volvo 240 DL? Yes, absolutely, 100%.
Could
But
you imagine that? Look, I understand you guys, you're not like the biggest fans of that. Could you imagine that noise coming out of a Volvo 240?
that's what I'm saying.
That
Imagine
would be
everybody's eyes.
That's
go
like when
bananas.
the people put the equal length headers on like the old S class like land yachts. It sounds like a freaking
Right.
F1 car, and it's this massive sedan.
Because it's the Zonda engine.
I mean, in the same vein that you are a human being compared to a UFC world champion.
I mean, that is the block for a Zonda, is that S600 engine.
Right, but then
That
again,
V12.
yes,
I know.
it is.
I know.
The metallurgy is
But-
different. It's like calling the engine that's actually in a Viper a truck engine. Is it the same basic block
No, I know.
design as the truck V10? Yes. Is it aluminum versus cast iron? Yes. Is it
Sure.
the same engine? No. I have to pee again. Greg, try not to annoy Keith too much.
Oh, no promises there.
I asked Chad earlier. I was like, what do you think would be your idea of like that you think is a supercar, but that others would not agree with you with?
Ooh,
Like, I
that's
know
a
you
good
mentioned your Volvo, but like, so you have a supercar in mind that you're like, this is a supercar, and someone's gonna be like, no, it's not.
one. Man, I don't think I have
Is-
one because
So we made the debate about the Corvette, and I was like, oh, the Corvette it's
But wait,
it's a
which
good-
one
good-
though? Because there are Corvettes that I think are supercars and some that are not.
Correct. And I guess it depended on the year, but like when the C6 came out of that year, when you went down the road, you saw a Corvette, you're like, oh shit, that's a Corvette.
Mhm.
The only way that made one of those a supercar was that badge and a little bit of, like you said, wider body style. But like the C8, yes, some of them are. No, some of them are not because they're everywhere. They're
Yeah, I
everywhere.
mean, I would say the Z06 and up and the C8 are supercars for sure. I mean, they're bona
Right.
fide supercars just because of how they perform. They're mid-engine. They're not normal cars. But like
Right. It's
every
above average,
Corvette
way
before the
average.
C8, you can argue against. I would say the C7 ZR1 is. I'd even say the C7 Z06 is. You can argue with that because it is a supercar beater, but they are not really that rare. And I would say the C6 Z06 is right at the top tier of like highest performance sports car. I don't think it's a supercar.
Right.
I mean,
Yep.
505 horsepower, big V8, but it is not exotic. It is not
No, it's
rare.
not.
They're fast. They are definitely attainable. I would say they're not supercars. They
Right.
perform like supercars for their era, but I don't think that they're
It is
supercars.
not a supercar. Yep.
Yeah, I
So
again, I think when you think of like high performance sports cars, that's in your top 10, in my opinion,
right.
because
Absolutely. Yeah.
like that
And
thing will
that's when he
fight with
brought up the Dodge
911s all day.
Viper. uh, you know, Chad brought up the Dodge Viper, and I said, absolutely. I think that is a supercar completely. That thing's they're rare. I
Yeah,
think it looks absolutely exotic.
yeah.
It's
And there's an aura
wicked
to
fast.
it,
I
right?
think, dude, you see one like,
Vipers.
especially the
Yeah.
like, dude, a Viper. You see like that white with blue and that snake just looking at you. I'm like,
Hmm.
dude, I don't care what anything else is around. I'm looking at this.
Yeah.
It's just nasty, and it sounds incredible.
Yeah. I think
So,
cars
but
cars like that, those are the ones you can kind of argue against. Like, is the Viper a supercar? I think so, but a lot of people probably wouldn't.
they're going to be
Um,
like, oh, well, that compares to a Corvette.
yeah, right.
That some people would do that. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. There are, I don't know off the top of my head. I'd really have to think about it. Like, I'm trying to think of like car companies that have made like really, really good sports cars that, or even just any really, really good sports car that's like borderline. I think you can make an argument for that, right? Like those cars
Right.
are really like the okay, like I get the Audi R8 V8 is arguably not a supercar. The V10 is, it's
It
rare.
is.
It sounds,
Yeah.
in my opinion, it does sound better. The V8 sounds amazing in that it sounds really good. But you can find that V8 on a bunch of other Audi products. The V10 you can't.
Right. Yeah.
Unless
RS5.
until they threw it into a freaking RS6 in Europe, which was just awesome. But yeah, like there are certain variants, right, that are supercars and that aren't. So
Right.
I don't know. I'd really have to think about it. Like, what is a car that's a supercar that people wouldn't think is a supercar? I mean, Porsche 911, actually.
Yeah.
Most Porsche
They're
911s
common.
are not supercars, but a lot of people think they are because of how good they are at performing on track, off
Right.
track. I'd say that there are only two bona fide supercar 911s, the GT2 RS and the GT3 RS. I
Oh,
wouldn't even say the turbo is a
no.
supercar because it's not. They're common.
Yeah.
You can find turbos all over the
They're common.
place.
And that's where I was going to say, well, I don't know. You see those.
Yeah.
But now GT2 RS and GT3, boy,
Yeah. I'd say
that's
that
nasty.
those are supercars
Yeah. Oh,
because
absolutely.
of the criteria. 911 turbos, while ballistically fast, are not supercars. They are in that top tier echelon of insanely high performing sports cars.
Right.
One thing I wanted to mention
Good.
while before we get into, we're going to do some double barrel blind rankings here in a second.
The best.
But you mentioned the V10 in the Audi R8 and the V10 in the RS6.
Mm-hmm.
Completely different engines.
Wait, really?
100%. The V10 in the R8 is a Lamborghini V10. The V10 in the RS is an Audi V10. And if you want an example
Oh,
of it, just
I didn't realize that.
go Google Audi V10 or Audi RS6 V10 and see what they're going for used, because they're eminently affordable.
Really?
Yes, that is like
Me
They're-
thinks
New
this
purchase.
is a E60 M5 scenario going on here, where they're like, "Ooh, that's cool," but "Ooh, shit, you should never buy one."
yes, they're plagued. Now you can't. So, not to go on a tangent because I want to get into these rankings. Because frankly, I put work into this one, not just picking everything like we do normally.
Wait, it's a blind ranking or is it a tier list?
It's blind ranking.
Okay, sweet.
But I spent a good chunk of today building a new scene just for this. So,
Let's go.
Cool.
but the Audi V10, not the Lambo V10. If you basically change some of the connectors and put a custom like standalone harness on it with a Haltech, Motec, whatever ECU on it, they become way more reliable. Because who knew Audi electrics are terrible?
Everyone, literally everyone,
Yes. So
including people at Audi.
exactly. At any rate, so gentlemen,
Yes, blind rank me.
How does the blind rankings work?
So,
I'm just
so
curious.
here I'll give you the rundown on the rules and regulations or what have you for this, and it's pretty simple. But here's the concept. We're gonna do a top 5. I'm gonna give you, in this case, we're gonna be blinded, or you guys are gonna be blindly ranking supercars. It's a top 5 list, but you don't know what the next one is. So I can give you a car and you have to rank it 1 through 5, but you don't know what the next 4 cars are. So like, you could be like, if I gave you these 5 cars and you rank them, that's easy. This one, it's like one of those things where it may, in some cases, create a moment where you end up putting the car you like the least at number 1, or the car you like the best at number 5.
Number 5,
You know?
right?
So what we're gonna do is I'm going to present the car. We're going to converse about it, but you're going to hold off on your ranking for it until I prompt you guys. So like I'll give a car, we talk about it, and then I'll be like, Keith, where do you rank it? And then you'll say at this spot, give your reasons, and then Greg will do the same. So I have to pull up my scenery here. All right, gentlemen.
Oh, good layout.
Yeah. There's graphics and everything. I put probably way more time into this than I probably should have. Sean, thanks for watching, man. Appreciate you, buddy. I mean, you can play along, Steve.
Peace.
But what goes up on screen is what the gentleman on the right here, I can't. My shoulder's gonna fucking dislocate. So you play along. Feel free to comment in chat, because it's always interesting to see what you guys have to say. But, gentlemen, the first car that I want you to blindly rank, and this comes from arguably the quintessential supercar brand, and that is Lamborghini, and it is the Huracan. Give me what you like, what you don't like. We'll start with
I have an interesting wrinkle to this. How about I count down 3, 2, 1, and then we say our number at the same time?
We can do that, but I want you to talk about it first. So what you like, what you don't like, etc.
Oh, okay.
So big things for me on supercars. Greg, you said it best. They have to have that aura, and a Huracan has that. I mean, I think they look absolutely nasty. It's a Lamborghini. It's just sleek. It's aggressive.
I mean, you're a Volkswagen fanboy,
And-
so you like that. That has points, right?
I am. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Yes.
naturally. I think it's absolutely wicked. And the interior, man. If you sit in the interior of one of those, it screams money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
sounds.
I would agree with that. I mean, I think
Go ahead.
that I wouldn't say it's quintessential supercar, but it is it screams modern supercar for sure. Like I think that you
Right.
get into a Huracan or you see a Huracan going down the street and you're just like,
Ooh.
like it is
I
a
like that.
neck snapping car in the
They
sense.
must be big on TikTok.
Yeah, right. Like, hey, what do you
Exactly, yeah.
what do you do for a living? Freaking Daniel Mackham.
Foot cam
But
on
you know,
OnlyFans.
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Oh, what's your OnlyFans? I think that there are better modern supercars that I personally would be like, oh, holy shit, like that's
Right.
wild.
I agree.
However, when a Huracan rolls by, I'm still looking at it.
I'm still gonna look at it.
Yeah.
You're still gonna be like, dang, that thing's thick.
Yeah, like that's a sick car. So
Yeah.
for me, I mean, it's pretty cool. So all right. Do you want to do the countdown, or do you just want to go or just you know what? Let's forget that. You put yours, and then I'll put mine. So you go first.
Keith.
Okay. From watching these videos and seeing how Chad can be, like I know that it's gonna be some devious bull crap. Like,
I like that you already know the game.
And so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna put it at 3. Three is gonna be my ranking for it.
Ooh.
You know, I mean, it's cool. It's in that middle. I'm cool. I think 3 is gonna be fine because I feel like you're gonna pull out some 1990s supercar out your ass.
Stay tuned.
I will put it at 2 because for modern supercars, there are few that you can get better than because they're versatile, they're relatively inexpensive in supercar lands compared to like
They
McLarens
are,
and
yes.
Ferraris. Like you can have these for a decent price, quite honestly, and
That's
you can tune them
100%
to
right, dude.
ballistically fast, like speeds. Like there are so many turbo kits for this thing. There are so many supercharger kits for this thing. It is arguably the most versatile modern supercar. It is,
and they're reliable in comparison.
and they're
I know,
super
yeah, they're reliable. Yes,
For me,
dude.
like,
Are y'all hating on Volkswagen? Screw y'all.
I mean, like one of my ultimate dream cars that I've always fantasized about was the Gallardo, and this is the next genesis of the Gallardo, and it's
Oh,
just
yes.
better than the Gallardo. So I'm okay with this being at 2 because it's just a great car. Period.
It is.
Fantastic. You're both wrong, but it's fantastic. No,
Says you.
well, as the moderator, and I guess I should be impartial. At any rate, the second car on this list is the C8 Corvette Z06.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Oh, I have to.
I was gonna say that there's got
For a lot of these cars, I don't clarify, so you can pick and choose the variant. With the Corvette, it's in my opinion very important to make the distinction because the normal C8 Corvette screams normal 911 to me. To your point you were making earlier.
Yeah.
Whereas the Z06, it's got all the supercar DNA, right? Flat plane crank, engine, mid-engine, the looks, the aero, etc. But C8 Corvette, discuss.
All right, I'll go first for this one. I mean, by modern standards, the C8 Z06 is a supercar. It is exotic engine too, 5.5 liter flat plane crank V8. It is exotic looking mid-engine. It is very angular. Has a very Aventador front end. It is by all means a supercar, especially with its rarity, the way that the hype around it was, the aura that's around it that we talked about. Like, to me, it has supercar written all over it for sure. If this was the base C8, no. If anything Z06 and up in the C8 to me is supercar territory. So I like it, but I don't think it's as high on the list as both of you will think I will put it.
So I agree with a lot of things you say, but in my job, I get to see a lot of cars that come in damaged. And I have one shop in particular that specializes in Corvettes. And I'm telling you, I've seen a crap ton of C8s and Z06s come in. And so I get to look at them and really dive into them and check them out. And I think they look cool. And the Z06 has got the power, it's got the sound, it looks cool, but it's still a Corvette to me. And yes, it's affordable, but there once again, when it comes to there's not much that changes it from your base model C8. It's still, you can look down the road and not really tell if it's a Z06 or not unless you're up on it. And it looks good. I am not a fan of the C8 as far as looks for the Corvette because I loved the C7. I thought they did the C7 great justice. When the C8 came out, it just didn't scream Corvette. So for me, I like it, but once again, truthfully, I don't think it's going to be high on my list.
All right. So since you mentioned it, where is it on your list?
If I was to put it on my list, truthfully, I'd probably put it at, oh man. I'm gonna put it at 4 because I don't trust you.
Fantastic. I love it.
I was about to say 5, but I was like, you know what? There's probably a worse one, but I'm gonna go with probably a 4. That's where I'm at on that.
Gregson, your rebuttal?
5.
Really?
Yeah, I don't like
how
the C8 unpatriotic jackass.
Yes.
I don't like the look of the C8.
They don't look good.
We talked about it a lot of times. They are cool. I've sat in a bunch of them. I've never driven one. I've sat in a bunch of them. I don't like the looks of the back end from literally any angle. The front ends look awesome.
I don't like any angle.
The front looks great. The front 3/4 looks great. The side profile looks great. The whole back end looks like garbage. I don't like how the car looks. I would literally buy any other Corvette of any generation, and it has nothing to do with the engine layout or where it is. It's just, I think they're all better looking as front engine cars. Full stop.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, we've had this conversation ad nauseum. To a lot of people, the Corvette ceased to be the Corvette when it went mid-engine. When it deviated from that front mid layout.
It's not even just that. They went so far with the looks, man. Like Corvette has always had that like signature stuff. Yes, times change, but man, they went super aggressive. Like, the C7 still had that look of a Corvette, and it's just the rear end looked really good. The front was aggressive, and I think they just went too much.
No.
It was just too much.
Yeah, I mean, it's always we've talked about the C8 Corvette more than rightfully we probably should have. I don't know, but it's hard from a perform. Here's the thing: anytime you start bringing in bang for buck into a supercar conversation, it loses some of the aura.
That's right.
It's an incredible car.
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
incredibly engineered. Everything ticks every box. It is 100% a supercar. It is just like, do you want Pop-Tarts or do you want like great value toaster pastries?
Oh, Pop-Tarts.
There's they could literally be made in the same exact factory. It's just one is what you want and the other is
better than the
what
other.
You settle for. And I feel like
give me that frosted cherry.
Oh, you animal.
Oh, brown sugar.
Brown sugar or strawberry, and then the rest can get F right off.
No, frosted cherry, you goated.
All right, I guess next
Yeah,
tune in next week
OG.
for our toasted pastry breakfast tier list
Toast a strudel
with the context of which goes best with a
Toast a
road
strudel.
trip. I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with you guys. I mean, obviously, I have the benefit of knowing what else is on this list and everything like that.
Jackass.
If this was a C, I would honestly put the C7 Z06 way above a lot of stuff, just because it does it the American way. And I don't. It's one thing to be if you're America's sports car, it loses some of that Americanness or that pride you have when it does it like all the other countries, Europe, Japan, etc. So,
yeah,
The next car on this list is what Todd in chat said, the Kia Stinger. No, I'm kidding. I just knew that would get a rise out of Greg.
Wrapping there for the night.
No, it is actually the spiciest variant Volkswagen Beetle you can find, the GT3 RS. My favorite Porsche of all time, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, for the 911s, the GT3 RS is
fucking nasty.
I mean, it really is. It's nasty. It's good. It is literally bred to be a track weapon. They're rare. They're exotic. They're cool. They are super unattainable just because of how crazy 911 prices have been and always will be.
They're $250,000.
I know. I mean, they're $250,000.
It's worth every penny, if you ask me.
But as soon as you buy them, they appreciate like 50 grand. Yeah. It's insane.
I mean, I love the way they sound and the way they look as they're a track weapon, but it's not over the top. You know, everything it's German, so it has a purpose. You know, there isn't style for style's sake, and yet somehow they manage to out-Italian the Italians and make something incredibly gorgeous while being an engineering masterpiece.
I mean, to me, like, this is like there are few German things made that I would want over that. Period.
I don't think there is. I mean, apart from Heidi Klum, I think it's that and then the GT3 RS.
Jeez. I honestly, that's probably one of my favorite cars ever made. I think it's absolutely one. It just looks nasty. No matter what you do, it just looks aggressive, and it's not just fast in a straight line. It's fast in fucking corners. That son of a bitch can handle. It handles. It rips.
Yeah, it does.
When people see that car, you could have a Lamborghini and a Porsche GT3 RS. I'm going to go to that GT3 RS all day, just because it's not even just about, it's performance for me. It's what it can do, and that thing can just absolutely rip. Now, as far as price goes, yeah, they're up there for sure. But like you said, they depreciate. But I don't give a shit. I'd still buy one.
I mean, the best thing about it is they have money, appreciate. So,
True.
So with that being said, we all quite rather like this vehicle. Keith gave you a free preview of where his might rank. But Keith, where is it ranking on your list?
5. No, I'm just kidding. 1. I'm going to put at 1. I love that car. We have a friend of ours that actually owns one. He has a Porsche mechanic shop, and they go to the track and they take that bad boy and they rip on it, and it is so freaking cool. It's going to be at 1 for me. That's to me. There's not much batter to the bone.
Solid. I mean, it's a solid choice, to be honest. I'm going to put mine at 3, and there's reasoning behind that. They are insane performance cars. The aura around a Lamborghini, though, is different than a 911, regardless of what that 911 is. There's a certain thing that happens when a Lamborghini Huracan comes by and a Porsche 911 GT3 RS comes by. For me, specifically. I'll look at the GT3 RS and just be like, damn, that's cool. And then I'll look at the Huracan and just be like, damn, I want that. Like, there's a difference there. To me, I do want the GT3 RS, but I want the Huracan more because there's more aura there for me. Just because
I can agree with that.
The how Lamborghini is as a brand, how just the stance of the car, the low wedge. There's something very Countach that has been brought through the Lamborghini lineup throughout the years that just screams Batmobile and jet airplane that the 911 GT3 RS just doesn't have, other than this is the crazy track variant of the 911, which is cool and I love it and I think they're awesome, but I can't put it ahead of a Huracan just because if I'm buying it with my money, I'm buying the Huracan over the 911.
Yeah. I can definitely see your point. I guess for me, I guess because I've been around them, I've seen what they can do. I've actually got to drive some Lamborghinis, and you're right. The aura that it gives is
It's
a
cool.
Lamborghini. When you see that emblem, I mean, people go crazy over it. But I
Yeah.
guess I'm a big German car fanatic, though. And so for me, I'm looking at that Porsche GT3 RS. If I see that, I could care less about anything else. So that's my personal.
Well,
Good
The Lambo
news.
is
Yeah.
German
The
under the
Lambo's
skin.
German.
I know, but
I was
yes.
gonna say, good news, it's an Audi.
And it has two Audi 5. No, I can't even go there. I mean,
Yeah, it's got two TTRS engines welded together. Yeah,
Damn,
that's how
it's a
they make 'em.
VR10, right?
Yeah, it's a VR10, exactly.
it's a VR10.
No, I mean, here's the last thing I'll say about the Porsche, and we'll go to our next car, which is one of my favorites. What the Porsche
GTD.
Yeah. What the GT3 like? They managed to make a six-cylinder that isn't an inline six sound epic. To Andrew's point in chat, or no, he said the Lambo overrun. Never mind. The way this thing screams, it's a 4-liter V6, or sorry, flat six. That is a huge 6-cylinder, 4 liters, and it revs past 9,000 RPM. It screams. It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
It is just such a, and then like I said, the way it manages to have the looks and and it makes of all the cars on this list, it makes the least amount of horsepower, but it does so much with the horsepower it makes. I mentioned before
Yeah.
when we were
The
talking
performance behind it is stupid.
we were talking about the Shelby GT500. That's making 760 horsepower, and it's tenths of a second quicker around a track than the GT3 RS, making 260 horsepower less. Like, that is incredible, and it shouldn't be that good. It's compromised from a physics standpoint from where they put the engine and stuff like that. It's an epic car. So,
Yeah.
we got 2 left.
Oh God.
Yes. The next car on this list, and I put it on this list
Which Chad says it's one of his favorites.
of
by
the
way.
modern breed.
Okay.
It's speaking of making 6-cylinders sound great. It is the Maserati MC20.
Well,
I don't know.
I wish I would have put the Z06 at 4 now. Very cool car. I would argue it's not a supercar.
I mean, mid-engine,
I would
600
argue
horsepower.
Really?
it's a high-end sports car.
With that price
But
point,
it gets the supercar nod because it's a Maserati. They make a version of this car as an alpha where it's like this one-off thing. And it's like, okay, well, it's not a supercar because it's just this one-off thing. I don't think it's a Zagato or anything like that. But, like, I don't know. It's got the performance. I don't know. I can make an argument against it being a supercar because it's not.
You can, but you haven't.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to work within these parameters. I nothing this car other than it looks okay. Like for supercar realm, I don't think it is. I don't think it's going to go down as an all timer at all.
no.
I think the Z06 is
Excellent.
better.
Talk
than
it down
this.
so I can buy one dirt cheap.
Yeah.
I know, right? Yeah, let's devalue them bitches.
I'm very interested. I'm very interested to talk to you about this next week when it's us and we're not doing a ranking list of why this is one of your favorites. I don't necessarily like this car, honestly. I've seen it in a bunch of different places, and it's not my cup of tea for supercars, honestly. So I mean, we know where I'm putting it, so I don't mind saying it now based on this conversation. Like, it's gonna be 4. So I'm leaving my number 1 open to whatever the hell you have last. But I'm not a huge fan of it, honestly.
Interesting.
I gotta agree with you. Just I don't know a ton about it. I love the fact that it's got a V6 in it. I think that's really cool because I feel like they're. I've always been a fan of V6s that can produce power because typically they sound badass. But I'm sorry, Maserati just doesn't do anything for me. We've seen the history of Maseratis and how they depreciate and how terrible that their engineering is and the issues that they have. I mean, massive problems. I think it looks cool. I'll give it the cool factor, but at the same time, if I saw one, I wouldn't know what it is unless I saw that emblem. I just because it's not on my radar, to be honest with you.
It wasn't made
And
in
also
the
the price
fatherland.
$239,000 for a Maserati. I mean, I'm sorry, but I don't think any Maserati is worth over 150 grand. You know, it's just
Interesting.
so. I mean, it's a 5 for me. That's the bottom of my list.
Surrounded by idiots.
But I like the way they look. I do like the way they look, but
Interesting. So we have a number 1 and a number 2, and I got both of you, you rat bastards. The Ferrari Dino. No, I'm kidding. Nope, there's no.
I would still put that over the Maserati.
I think neither of you have seen them in person or heard them.
I have seen them in person. I'm not a fan.
The funny thing about this is, and I love how Keith played right into it. With it is there's actually no gotcha car here. They're all legitimate supercars. They're all things I would absolutely 100% own given the means.
Bye.
And
Nice.
it is the McLaren 720S.
Oh, well, I have no choice. It's a 1 for me. and Keith also doesn't have a choice. It's a 2 for him, which I think he's probably going to be okay
and I'm
with.
not mad about it, but at the same time, I mean, there's a lot of them. We see a lot of them, or at least around here. It's like I would say it's like a starter supercar in a sense. When I say that, it's just because that's what a lot of people go for. You go for the Huracan, or I see it in McLaren, and it's a cool car. My buddy's got one, and I think it's awesome. I would choose a Lamborghini. If I had to rank it, I'd put the Lamborghini at my number 2 and probably the McLaren at my number 3, though. So if I had to swap the two, that's what I would do. Which I'm not mad about my list, though. I'm still happy about it.
Yeah, I'm actually happy with my list too. Like, I used to be a huge McLaren fanboy, and Chad can attest to that. Like, huge.
I even put it at the top of your list without having to like adjust like where it is. Like just
Yeah. But here's the thing though, like my McLaren fandom ends at the 675 LT. I'm not a big fan of the modern, they're all modern. I'm not a big fan of the McLarens that have come out in the last 5 to 10 years in that sense of like 720S and up. Like the 650, love it. 675 LT, love it. 570, still a big fan of that. Drove a 570 GT.
Oh, yeah.
They're super cool. But the 720, while again biblically fast and exotic and unattainable and blah blah blah, definitely a supercar. Checks all the boxes. Nothing the 720S, which is weird to say because of how hardcore my McLaren fandom was for so long. But again, I'm not angry at the list, but I wish I put the Huracan at 1 because there's something about a Lambo. There really is. Like when I think supercar these days,
it's the first car you think of.
It's the first car I think of. And it has nothing to do with like, Stradman owned one and DDE owns them and blah, 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 blah. Like, no, like when I see...
It's the name.
There are very few cars these days where I'm driving down the road or I see one pass by and I'm just like, holy shit. Every single time a modern Lambo comes by me, I have that reaction. Whether it be a Huracan or an Aventador or whatever. Except an Urus. Those things suck. The
I like
actual
yours.
Lambos, not just rebadged Audis. Um, Whenever those come by, I'd say from Gallardo and up, I always am just like, ooh, that's interesting. Like that, I always want to go to that car. And 720S, good point. There are a lot of them. I see them at almost every meet.
Everywhere.
I don't
Yep,
see Lambos at every meet.
that's
I
true.
don't. I see GT3RSs at every meet. I don't see
Yeah.
Lambos at every meet. So yeah, I mean, I'm okay with my list, but I wish I could swap one in two.
Yeah, I just want to touch back, on what you said on the Lamborghini. Like, you're right. When you think supercar, the first thing that comes to mind is a Lamborghini. I don't think Ferrari. I mean, that would be my next one. It would be Ferrari and then probably McLaren. But I
Yeah,
mean, for
Out
me.
of principle, I avoided anything
But
Ferrari.
I was just gonna say I knew there was no Ferraris on here because it's Chad.
yeah, yeah, I'm surprised. But Lamborghini, I mean, like y'all said, it is reliable. They make stupid ass power. So many people put big ass turbos on them things and they just rip. And it's just looks like the freaking Batmobile, dude. I'm like, I mean, if you wrap one in satin black, you would be like, oh shit, that's hard,
Yeah.
And you you sit in it and it screams luxury. It screams supercar. You sit in a McLaren, it's not as aggressive. It's more smooth and luxury and defined and sleek, which is nice. But the Lamborghini, when you sit in one, it is like in your fucking face.
Yeah.
It's like,
The McLaren's
here
are more
I am.
minimalistic too.
Hold on. Exactly. And that's why I say, the McLaren's like a beginner's like supercar because you see so many of them out there.
Mhm.
They're everywhere. And so I'd be like, but yeah, but you're right. The Lamborghini, the aura, the presence that it gives when people that's when we have our car meets and we have two buddies that come out and they have Lamborghinis. I flock to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm over here looking at a Volkswagen R32 like, damn, that's sick.
Yeah,
But
I'm okay with my list. I'm okay with it. Other than the top
Those-
two,
those are good cars.
I'm cool with it. I'm cool with
Except for that Maserati.
it.
You uncultured
Yeah,
swine.
Chad and I are gonna have a very long conversation about that next week. Like, why?
Why not?
I mean, true. Why not?
I mean,
We have the money.
I gave you the floor. You still have.
Okay. Chad, what's your list though?
It's funny you should ask that.
Aha! Ooh,
Wow.
interesting. GT3 RS. I'm
Really?
not surprised the
You're putting
McLaren's
the
at the bottom.
Maserati there?
Here's the reasoning for the list. I've sung the Porsche's praises enough to where I looked at it from this thing as like, if you dropped $500,000 in front of me, which one of these am I going to buy? Right?
Yeah.
Well, the GT3 RS is the smartest buy there for sure.
Like
It's not
I
going to
don't
depreciate ever.
Greg, you should know me by now. I could give a rat's fuck about that.
Oh, I know. It's about the performance.
When I
The
bought-
GT3 RS is the best performing car out of all of these. For sure.
It just combines everything I want in a car. I
Right.
have
Mhm.
That's why it was
lusted
my number one
after
choice.
these things for so long, especially when they
They are
You're
sick.
nasty.
got to the 991. The 997 was cool. I loved that. But the 991s, they just took it to another level when they started differentiating between what is it, the GT3R, like when they started differentiating between like the hardcore track and then the hardcore, it's the same engine, but you get the manual box behind it and everything. Like Andreas Pointinga, I think his name is, or whoever's the head of the GT division over at Porsche, they get it. They get what they've managed to make a car that speaks to guys like us and for people with unimaginable amounts of money. They speak to both of us. And a lot of times I think supercars just don't do that. They speak to they only speak to sort of the wealthy.
Yeah.
We'll kind of go into this in more detail. I just like that the MC20, I have seen them, I've ridden behind them, I've heard them. Maserati and Italian electrics go a long way in the not so great area. But looking at this thing, it fits the bill. It's one of those things like, what is that? Holy crap, that's the new Maserati. And to your point of never nobody's getting them or whatever. It's just, it's different, but it's doing that thing I said Ferrari doesn't do anymore. They're very good, especially they managed to make yellow look good, in my opinion, with the way they did this body.
What? Yellow looks good on any sports car. Well, maybe not any.
I with an abundance of respect disagree.
Yeah, I'm with Chad there. Yellow looks
Damn
good on
y'all.
a bunch
Dude,
of
yellow's
cars, but
sick
not
on a
all.
car.
You know,
Okay.
it's just, and it's new and it's different, and I like that about it. Is it going to perform as well as all the other cars on this list? Probably not, just because it's probably designed more for the, you know, nearing retirement individual who's going to be able to afford it. But there's just something about it that speaks to me that makes me want it more than the other three. Corvette Z06, again, epic engineering, proof that when we put our minds to it, we can do everything just as good, if not better, than the so-called Europeans who are better at doing supercars than we are, which this proves they are not. Especially when you get to like the ZR1, where it's like, I'm sorry, which one of you has this all with this horsepower without the use of batteries and electric motors? Koenigsegg, step forward. Anyone else? Like, there's an element of that I really, really like. About it, but it's just not a core. I would get up every morning and I would look at it and it'd be like, that is an epic machine. It's just not a Corvette. There's a part of me that like my dad, who was a Corvette owner, is just looking down at it. It's like, it's strayed. It's not what I want. I would much rather a C7 Z06 or ZR1 than this. Lambo at 4. The only reason it's above the McLaren, well, on its own merit, is that Lambo is the supercar brand. They invented it, and they've kind of, that's been their recipe. And ever since VW acquired them, they've just been knocking it out of the park. It goes back to, again, the sound. V10s sound epic, but I like the sound of some other stuff. And then lastly, the 720. I really don't like the recessed and bucket headlight trend that McLaren seems to be on.
It's weird, man.
From certain angles, they look incredible, but from other angles, especially the side profile, there feels like too much bodywork in front of the front tires. It's weird. It looks great from some angles, and from other angles, the proportions don't look exactly right. I mean, the McLaren engine, what do you have to say? I mean, they went to Cosworth to develop it, and it's proven itself time and time and time again. You know, and none of the like, you know, but that being said, like, one of the cars I've followed since kind of its inception was the DDE's 720. A lot has to do with that. The fact that they managed to re-engineer apparently the biblically difficult pink, that lark pink. I love that color so much, and I love that livery so much that it's like, I want to design that livery to work on my car right now. So like, that's why I watch it. But it's, you know, again, I like Greg was kind to me the last time we did this and had no gotcha cars. You might consider the Maserati a bit of a gotcha car, but in my viewing of this, it's not a gotcha car.
It's on the list.
You know, but no, I mean, it's I enjoy this because it forces you to kind of talk about things.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
this is a good segment for sure.
You know, it's become
fun.
one of my favorites because you start to think about it. You start to get into the nitty gritty of explaining. It really showcases what you like in a car versus, or what speaks to you from certain cars. Versus some other stuff. Andrew in chat goes, "Where's the Golf R on this list?" I got
several hundred down.
I mean, next time we'll do a hot hatch list, and
oh, that would be a good one.
And that's actually a good one, yeah.
It'll be a Volvo at the top.
No, Golf R number 1.
Yes.
It does
Something we
everything
can
the
agree on
best.
finally.
Yeah.
Is the Civic Type R considered a hatch?
Yes, the Civic Type R is a hatch. Yes.
Technically speaking, Corvettes are hatchbacks.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Audi
Yes.
TTRS.
You know, part of me also with it, like, and I'll leave that, and then we're beyond the 2 hour mark, so I think
Time.
we'll wrap up here
Yes.
in a minute. But part of me wanted to do the 5 cars you did in your video, but I also didn't want to take away from your video. So to anyone left in chat, Keith has an awesome video on budget supercars. We'll call them exotics.
Go watch the video. And,
Go watch it because it's
yell at
regardless
him in
of
the comments.
the what's the word the being pedantic as we can oftentimes be. It's an excellent video and awesome insight. And if you're looking for a car that has a ton of substance, panache, all of that, these are the cars to look at. But yeah,
But they're not supercars.
I would classify them as exotics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've been doing YouTube longer, which makes me right. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally
Hey,
120% kidding. Can't wait to see what you have next. Keith, before we sign off, why don't you tell the good folks where they can find you?
Yeah, man, we're on YouTube. It's Wheelz and Whiskey. This is pretty much my setup and stage where I record everything at. It's Wheelz with a Z and then and Whiskey. We also have a TikTok, but honestly, we just stay on YouTube, and it's just me and my best buddy just coming together, making some good content. We're actually recording a video tomorrow night. Going to be on 350Zs. My buddy, that's a drifty boy, just got back from the drift mansion. And he's going to talk about, why 350Zs are awesome and why it's a fun, perfect drift car. So I'm super excited about that video because it's going to be a lot of fun.
Nice.
So, and then
Fantastic.
we got a bunch of stuff coming. So.
America's Sylvia.
Cool.
I'm kidding. No, I'm looking forward
Yeah,
to that one. Definitely. But for this one, guys, thank you again to Keith for hopping on. It's been awesome as usual. Next week, let me check the dates. Next week, we will have another guest with Gregson this time. Elliot's coming back on the show. Hopefully him and Greg don't talk nonsense, but I'll be my friends are getting married next weekend, so I'll be off doing that. But thanks again to everyone who watched, shared, liked, all the fun contractually obligated stuff I'm supposed to say on content, and we will catch you guys